What's up, and welcome to the greatest teacher of all time, where I, Quincy Dawson, interview teachers of color to highlight their philosophies, strategies, and personalities. Today, I've got Maiah. What's up, Maiah?
Hi.
Or Miss B, as the kids call you, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, Maiah, you are a school counselor for elementary school students, yeah?
Mhm.
All right, cool. So, can you tell me what is a counselor? What do you do on the day to day?
Um, Day to day, could be a number of things. It could be one-on-one meetings with students, um, groups, students, or meeting with students in like a group setting. Um, could be helping with behavior issues. Um, Sometimes there's like that background stuff of like attendance and inputting things.
Yeah, tell me about the groups. Like, what do you do with students in groups?
Well, I haven't done too many groups so far this school year. The one group I'm working on right now is for EL skills, but more so it's about um, reading skills, um, and these type of skills that can also be applied like not just to reading, but like outside the classroom as well, or not just not outside the classroom, but like in other parts of the classroom as well, such as like perseverance, attention, like paying, like being able to like hold your attention on an assignment for a long period of time, figuring out ways to figure out things you don't know, whether that be looking at context clues in a paragraph or um my kids are kind of young, so we don't use like Google or technology in that kind of way, but that would be something I could go over, or like asking a teacher, but like using certain skills to like utilize before you ask a teacher, not just defaulting to asking a teacher.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like you're like a reading coach or language coach for them.
Um, it's funny you say that because I really wanted to stay away from like instruction, because that's not really what like counselors do. They don't really do instruction or like tutoring. I wanted them to have like, I mean, these skills, these particular skills we're working on in the context of reading, but they can be used in different contexts as well, such as with like math homework or science homework they may have, or if they're working on we do this thing called iReady. They're working on iReady, taking that time, being able to pay attention. I chose attention because there's this one student, I was watching him do iReady, and literally the times he was getting the questions wrong was just because he wasn't paying attention. And I was like, you know how to do this, but you're just like drifting off every so often, and then you're getting questions wrong unnecessarily. So it's stuff like that. Like it's in the context of reading in the group, but it can be applied to like different areas of school.
Yeah, it's like those translational skills that they have to, or transferable skills that they have to learn in different areas, right? Like if you're good at this when you're doing English, you'll probably be good at that when you're doing math also, right?
Yeah, that's the idea behind it.
Okay, and you're like counseling them through those things.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
there
that,
are kids who they were like upset. They're like, "Oh, I don't understand like why I'm behind at reading," and I'm just like, "Well, you're doing really well. You're working really hard. You just have to keep at it." Like that kind of
yeah,
thing.
or like it's not the actual reading they're not doing well at. It's like the attention span of like paying attention to the stuff you're reading, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's cool for a counselor. Yeah, I remember at one of my previous schools, the counselor like felt like the backbone to the school. So when you say you're doing other things like inputting, like what did you say, attendance and like other things like that, that's like the real backbone of the school, you think?
Yeah, well, yeah. Attendance is a huge thing that we're like focusing on this year. So I do like I've been contacting a lot of parents, just inquiring like, why aren't they at school today? Like, oh, they're sick. Oh, I've heard we've had car problems. I'm feeling sick, the parent is feeling sick, and I don't have anyone else to take my kid to school. So it is interesting getting a lot of like different like contexts, because I don't know, apparently a lot of parents having car problems, or some don't even have cars. They take the bus.
I could imagine.
So, so very insightful in that way. Um, I also do a lot of, I guess, behavioral type stuff. I have some behavior contracts for some students. I check in on time to time. Sometimes when, students have like really big reactions, kind of like talking to them, bringing them down.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, it sounds like you do a lot for the students too, but maybe going back to being like the backbone of the school. How do counselors help teachers? Like, do you think you help teachers directly or indirectly?
I think that I help teachers out a lot with like behavior. Something that I can kind of think of is when they're kind of, having a really hard time with a particular student, being kind of like that liaison between them and the parent. Because I mean, I am busy, but I feel like I do essentially have a little bit more time than them because I'm not like teaching all day. So I have the time to text parents, call parents, set up those meetings and just being like, hey, like so and so's teacher wants to talk. Um, teachers
Yeah,
have
I'm thinking back at my old schools when we have like behavior issues, it'd be easy to either send them in the hallway or send them across the hall to another teacher's class, right? Do you think it's better to send them to you, or do you want to take on that responsibility?
send them to me. I don't mind coming in the classroom to help. That's usually what the teachers kind of do. Um, and if they need to like leave the classroom to for a second to kind of calm down and reset, then yeah, that's fine. I can do that. I don't like the word send them to me because that sounds like detention, and that's more of like a principal's job to be like the disciplinarian. Like I can help with behavior in the classroom, and like teachers have come to me being like, what do you think I should do? Blah blah blah. And that's where like some students have like behavior contracts. And then I was kind of doing the behavior contract in the beginning and then slowly like pass it off to the teacher. So kind of like helping in that way, like giving them like an idea or a tool or a strategy to help with the what they're seeing in the classroom.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I definitely see that being important. But another thing I'm thinking too, right, in being the backbone of these teachers, like helping us so much, what are ways that teachers can help you as a counselor? Like, have you thought about that? Like, what support might be helpful?
Um, that's a good question.
And I know I've talked to other teachers before, and when they say they want support from like the administration or parents and stuff like that, it's such like a wide answer of what that support means, right?
Mhm.
Like one teacher said that support means admin coming in saying, "Hey, you've been teaching for like 3 periods. I'm gonna give you a little break. Like, go to the restroom, go get water. I'll watch your class." Right. So that's a way that admin and maybe a counselor can support a teacher. But like, are there any ways you could think of a teacher supporting you? Maybe with students, parents?
I think just kind of like allowing me to do my job. Sometimes some teachers get a little like weird about taking kids out of class
Mm,
um, for like maybe like a one-on-one session. Or even if it may be like a push-in session, they might think it's kind of like a distraction. But it's like I'm there for a reason. Um, and I mean, part of the reason is like they're having a problem. That specific problem could be, you know, affecting them in class. And so, like, if I'm able to kind of intervene and help um, for, a short amount of time each week, then maybe can actually like help them do better in school. So I think just kind of like maybe understanding where I'm coming from too. So yeah.
yeah, and I think that's another big part of it because, like, of course, at all my schools, I've had counselors, but I don't think I've known what these counselors do every day. But yeah, knowing this kind of helps. What's up?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of hard because there is some stuff like for one-on-one sessions, push-in sessions, groups. I do feel the need to prep. I mean, not that teachers don't prep. I mean, they also like lesson plan, but like, um, I feel like in school we were like had to come up with these like big long plans, and then um, it's a lot of like just like computer stuff. I guess like prepping is the stuff that I kind of do, and then what else? Also like making attendance calls or calling people's parents, and like setting up those meetings, or like having a meeting with a parent, whether it's in person or in Zoom. Um,
It makes sense because we're all doing a lot, you know? Yeah. So another thing I wanted to get at, so both of us were young, right? We're young in this field of education. I'm a teacher, you're a counselor. Um, but when I think about like a young counselor, that's really interesting to me because I think of a counselor like counseling students through like their lives and maybe plans for the future. But like we're still young, like we're still figuring it out, you know? How do you think you approach that? Like the fact of being so young and maybe your different types of experience you have connecting with your students.
oh, well, I work with elementary, so I
Oh,
mean,
huge gap.
yeah, so it's like all this stuff, it's all, like, I know it pretty well. And it's all really, I don't know, like similar, like young kids tend to go through like similar things in terms of like behavior. They may be like acting out, they may throw tantrums, they may like scream or throw things, they might run around. There's not really a lot of variation in like behavior. I mean, the reason for the behavior may be vastly different for each
Yeah,
kid,
yeah.
but the way they present is like very similar. Like if I think of like my most high needs kids, I'm like, yeah, they run out the classroom. Yeah, they may throw things. Yeah, they may yell. Yeah, they may like, do all kinds of stuff. So, and I feel like all of those behaviors can be dealt with pretty
Dealt with or
well.
more like managed? Like what are you actually counseling them through, you know?
Okay, so if we're talking about counseling, um, well, if we're talking about behaviors, it's usually a lot of incentivizing. Um, kids, so some kids may want like a little bit of free time, some kids may want um coloring pages, or they may want, um computer time is a big one too. And so it's like, okay, if you can just sit in your seat for a certain amount of time, then you can have computer time, right? That's
Oh,
behavior. For counseling, if I'm counseling a kid one-on-one or even like a group, it's usually at elementary, it's usually pre-planned. So it's like student has a specific thing. Like in the past, I had kids whose parents were going through divorce, or a kid who had a very huge like intersocial transgression, like all this like arguing and fighting, and so talking about like conflict resolution, like it's very pre-planned. For older kids, it may be like they just come and talk because they're just a little more, um
I guess more developed in their words.
yeah, and like a little more self-aware and can just like
Yeah.
kind of talk on their own. But for like the young ones, I mean, there is a little bit of that, but if I'm meeting with them like one-on-one, then I'm definitely having like some like pre-planned like curriculum to like learn a skill, whether
Yeah.
it's like self-control, conflict resolution, like things like that I touched on, or like dealing with anger, things like that.
Yeah, man. Again, super wide spectrum of things you deal with, and I definitely commend you for that. But yeah, thank you for all this, Maya. I really appreciate it. Your experience in the field and what you do as a counselor is one of the reasons why I think you might be one of the greatest, I guess, educators of all time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you to everyone else for watching The Greatest Teacher of All Time, where I, Quincy Dawson, interview teachers of color to highlight their philosophies, strategies, and personalities.